How big should that spotter be? I just got that question from someone that watched one of the videos the other day, and so this would be a good time to do a little short video on how to figure that out. So just kind of bear with me on this. It's kind of hard to muddle through a little bit for some people. 100 years ago, when I was sitting in Mr. Dittmer's trig class and Mr. Steinberger's analytical geometry class, I wondered what the hell I was doing there, but as it turns out, all these years later, I still use that almost every day, what I learned in their classes. So we'll see if we can get you pointed in the right direction here. Just hold on. Now, this is a mathematical formula, and I will tell you right now, these formulas are figured out in sterile vacuum conditions. So, and I'll get to that later at the end, what that means exactly, but this is a way to get you pointed at least in the right direction. Okay, we'll start out with the bead diameter. Now, if you've got a pinhead on your rifle, that would be the diameter of that head of that pin. This would also work if you're still using a blade front sight in a square or a rectangle out there on the spotter board. This will tell you how big that square rectangle needs to be to start with. So we'll just, right now, we'll go from the pinhead idea. Bead diameter, you divide that by the distance from the bead to your eye, and that'll be different for everybody. Everybody's guns are different. You'll have to figure it out. You can lay on the stock with your face like you're shooting and make a mark with a piece of tape on the stock, then measure from that front sight or that bead all the way back to where your eye is. You come up with a number in inches. So you got that. Now, that you take that times the distance to the target in inches. Now, on a chunk gun target at 60 yards, that is 2,160 inches. If you're shooting table, that's 1,080 inches. Those are just the two you'll need to know for table and chunk gun shooting. Now, that's the formula. Now I'm going to stop the video and we'll do it for a particular site, and you'll kind of see where we're headed here. Okay. I went through some of my pins and I found a pin head that was 0.093 inches in diameter. It's the diameter you want to know here. I divided that by 54 inches. That would be, on some guns, say you have a 48-inch barrel, that would be probably pretty close to where you're at. Like I said, you got to measure that on your gun. You divide that by 54 inches equals 0.001722. Okay? Now, you take that times the distance at 60 yards in inches, 2,160. You come up with 3.7199 inches. That should be the white dot that you've got out there if you're using a pinhead and a donut system. Now, if, for instance, you were still using a blade, and say your blade was an 1/8 inch in diameter, or 1/8 inch thick, this would be 0.125. You divide that by 54. You see how it works. Now, here's the thing about all this. As I said before, these are in sterile environments. It's a mathematical formula. Math has a lot of things we call absolutes, like pi times diameter equals circumference. That's an absolute. Now, that's great, but it doesn't take into account the light that particular day you're out there on the range. It doesn't take into account your eyesight. It doesn't take into account how well your eyes see the sights. It doesn't take account of a lot of things. These are just starting points to get you pointed in the right direction. In this case, if this was your formula here, you would just cut you out a circle around 3 3/4 inches and then kind of go from there and see if you need to go up or down. I will tell you on some of my guns, and again, my guns are going to be different than your guns. My formula came out to be around 3 inches, 3 1/4 maybe. And it has to be an absolutely dismal day for me to use a white spotter that big. Now, on a sunny day, I've gotten that number all the way down to like 2 3/8 because it's the light reflecting the glow of that white, the refraction from the sun. The brighter the sun, the more you're going to get, so you have to keep going down. Now, I suggest then what you do, say if this is your gun right here in this formula, I would cut me out a 3 3/4, I'd cut me out 3 1/2, 3 1/4, 3, 3 3/4, maybe 2 3/4, maybe 2 1/2, 2 5/8. Cut you out a bunch of different sizes with a compass and your wife's stack of paper plates and take them to the range. I carry a whole stack of them just so I can change on a given day. I know exactly what I'm going to need and I'll have it in my folder. So just use this as a guide to get you started. Like I say, you're going to have to adjust it to you and your gun. If you're shooting a real short barrel gun, what I call short barrel being like a 42-inch barrel gun, you can see that changes a lot of things here. So just measure it out on your gun, the front sight on your gun, and from that you can figure out what you need to have out there on your spotter. Somebody else asked me, well, how big is the spotter board out there supposed to be? Well, again, that's up to you. I've seen spotter boards that shoots that are about the size of on the bottom of a giant box like they would put tissue paper in at the grocery store. If your gun is shooting a few inches below the spotter, you really don't need a spotter board bigger than say 16 by 13, 16 by 14. I think all of mine are 16 by 13 because my gun shoots about 6 inches under the spotter. The spotter's at the top of the board and my shots are at the bottom. So you don't need a gigantic board out there. I've seen some at York and stuff that were like, I think they just cut a 4x8 sheet of plywood in half. That your competitors around you aren't going to appreciate that very much because you're hogging all the space out there. So just, make it, as long as your shots are on it, that's all that really matters. You just get your shots on it. Okay, guys, I hope this helps some of you. We'll see. If you got any questions, you can ask them in the comment section below this here on YouTube, and I'll try my best to get to you. And I might even redo this formula in the comment section so you can always have something to go back and look at. All right, guys, thanks a lot.